You know what's funny? We often think the best way to make someone want us is by constantly showing up for them, being there every time they call, replying instantly, saying yes even when we're exhausted, just to prove our love, our loyalty, our worth. But what we don't realize in that moment is we're actually making ourselves too available. And in doing that, we kill the very thing that creates desire, scarcity. Think about it. Anything that's easy to access all the time loses its value over time. It's just human nature. If someone knows they can have you whenever they want, there's no urgency, no effort, no reason to step up. But when you shift that dynamic, when you become less available, when your presence becomes a little unpredictable, when you're no longer waiting for them to notice you, that's when things start to change. That's when they begin to feel something they haven't felt in a while, your absence. And your absence, when felt deeply, becomes the most powerful presence you can have. See, when you've been giving someone all of your energy, your time, your attention, and they've been taking it for granted, the first thing to do isn't to yell, to beg, to convince them why they should value you. That never works. People aren't persuaded into loving harder. They feel their way back into love. And they feel it the most when something they were used to having suddenly isn't there anymore. When you stop showing up like you used to, when you stop responding at the drop of a hat, when you stop initiating, when you stop chasing, when you stop offering emotional comfort after they've been cold or distant, something clicks in their brain. It's a shift. Wait, where did she go? That sense of certainty they had about you starts to dissolve, and with it goes the comfort they had in keeping you at arm's length. Now let's be clear. This isn't about playing games. It's not about pretending to be busy or ignoring texts just to make someone squirm. That's immature. This is about making a genuine change in where your focus goes. Instead of giving your energy to someone who doesn't reciprocate, you start redirecting that energy toward yourself, your passions, your goals, your friendships. You move from being the woman who's always waiting for a reply to being the woman who's living a life worth replying to. And you'll be surprised how fast the dynamic changes when you make that internal shift. Suddenly, he's wondering what you're up to, why you're not chasing anymore, why you're not so easily reachable. He starts checking your stories, liking your photos, sending those late night just thinking about you texts. That curiosity starts brewing again, not because you manipulated him, but because you stopped making yourself a given. You see, when you're always around, always available, always forgiving, always explaining, what incentive does he have to change? Why would he fight for you if you're already there, even when he's not fighting for you? But when you step back, when you let him feel what life looks like without your warmth, your laughter, your presence, he doesn't just notice it. He misses it. And the moment he feels like you might be moving on, that you're no longer his, that maybe someone else could step into that role he took for granted, that's when the fear kicks in. That's when desire reignites. That's when he starts chasing. There's a quote I love: if you treat someone like a priority while they treat you like an option, you'll never be valued the way you deserve. And that's the trap so many people fall into. They give and give, hoping it will one day be enough to spark a change. But real change happens when you stop giving, when you stop feeding the situation, when you pull back, not to punish them, but to protect you. Let's say you've been in this push-pull dynamic for a while. He gives a little, then pulls away. You lean in more, hoping to bring him back. He enjoys the comfort of knowing you'll always be there, but never fully commits. That cycle, it ends the moment you stop participating in it. The moment you say, you know what? I'm not chasing anymore. I'm not sitting around hoping for breadcrumbs. I'm not being someone's maybe when I deserve to be someone's absolutely. That's when you become a mystery again. And people chase mystery. They don't chase convenience. The ironic part? You don't even have to do anything dramatic. No angry messages, no blocking, no loud announcements about how you're done. Just a quiet withdrawal of your energy, a subtle redirection of your attention. That's what throws them off the most, because it's not theatrical, it's confident, it's self-respecting, and that's magnetic. You're not trying to make him feel replaced out of spite. You're simply allowing the space for him to realize that you can be replaced, that you are not irreplaceable just because he got used to you, that someone else could come along and see your worth instantly. And if he's smart, that fear will light a fire under him. He'll either step up or step aside. And if he doesn't, that tells you everything you need to know. The goal here isn't just to get him back, it's to get you back. Because somewhere along the way, while trying to prove your worth to someone else, you might have forgotten just how powerful you are when your energy is fully yours. And the moment you remember that, truly remember that, everything changes. So let him feel what it's like not to have you in his orbit. Let him feel what it's like to be uncertain. Let him realize that he doesn't get to keep access to you just because you once gave him your heart. Because the truth is, once someone starts to believe they can lose you, that's when they start doing everything they can to keep you. Let him feel replaced and watch how fast he tries to earn his place back. You don't have to play games. That's not what this is about. It's not about pretending to move on or faking happiness just to provoke a reaction. What really creates a shift, what truly changes the dynamic, is an authentic shift in your energy. That's the difference between someone who's trying to make a point and someone who's genuinely reclaiming their power. And believe me, people can feel the difference. When a guy senses that your emotional energy is no longer centered around him, when he starts to realize that you're not orbiting his world anymore, something inside him wakes up. Suddenly, you're not the same woman he left behind. You're not texting him good morning. You're not watching his stories. You're not leaving breadcrumbs of attention that say, I'm still here if you change your mind. You're just gone. And that's when the panic sets in. Men feel these shifts long before they understand them logically. It's like emotional gravity has changed and they can't figure out why they're feeling off balance. That's the moment he starts to wonder, has she stopped thinking about me? Is she seeing someone else? Was I wrong to think she'd always be there? And none of this comes from you trying to manipulate the situation. It comes from you actually shifting your focus from him to you. You see, when you were emotionally invested in him, he could feel it, even if you weren't saying it out loud. Maybe it was in the way you lit up when he messaged, or the way you were always ready to meet him on his terms. Maybe it was in your availability or how you'd put things on hold for the chance of being with him. But the moment that stops, the moment your energy pulls back, it sends a very different message. One he wasn't expecting. And let me be really clear about something. That energy shift is not about withholding love or becoming cold. It's about redirecting your attention to the one person who truly deserves it, you. It's about choosing not to pour your energy into someone who hasn't proven they're ready to receive it. It's not revenge. It's realignment. When a man realizes that you're no longer emotionally chasing him, he starts to feel the consequences of his action. Before, there was comfort, there was security in knowing you were there. Now, there's uncertainty. And uncertainty, when it hits the heart, becomes motivation. Motivation to act, motivation to change, motivation to step up. Here's where most people go wrong. They think they need to show him they've moved on. They post pictures, try to make him jealous, try to prove a point. But that's not a real shift in energy. That's still seeking a reaction from him. That's still living in response to what he's doing. And the second you make him the target of your healing journey, you've already given him the power again. The real power comes when your life becomes bigger than him, when your thoughts aren't consumed by what does he think, but instead, what do I want? When your days aren't filled with replaying past conversations, but with creating new ones. With friends, with passion, with purpose. That's the energy shift. It's when he's no longer the center of your emotional universe, not because you're mad or hurt, but because you've evolved. And here's the beauty in it. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to explain yourself. When someone feels that they're no longer the priority in your life, they just know. It's in your tone. It's in your timing. It's in the fact that you're not chasing anymore. You've stopped chasing clarity. Stop chasing closure, stop chasing him altogether. That's when he feels the loss, not because you punished him, but because you let go. That letting go, that's what makes him sit up straight. That's what makes him rethink. It's not the drama, it's not the confrontation, it's the calm in you that unnerves him. It's the peace in you that makes him question why he doesn't have that same peace anymore. It's the fact that you're not needing anything from him, that you've become full on your own. That's magnetic, because when you shift your energy, you become the one in control, not of him, but of yourself. You no longer respond to crumbs because you're no longer hungry for someone who's not feeding your soul. You've raised the bar, not because you wanted to force him to meet it, but because that's just the new standard now. And whether he rises to it or not becomes irrelevant because you've already risen. This is where he starts to chase, not because you wanted him to, but because he realizes that the version of you he took for granted is gone. And the new version, she's not waiting for him to catch up. And that fear of being replaced, that's the catalyst. That's what makes him wonder if he still has a place in your life, if he still matters, if there's still a window open. That fear, if he truly cares, will light a fire in him. And if it doesn't, then he was never your match. But here's the key. None of this works if the energy shift isn't real. You can't pretend to move on while secretly watching his every move. You can't say you're done while holding on to hope with both hands. The energy shift only works when it's authentic, when you finally accept that you deserve more, when your happiness no longer hinges on his return, but on your own return to yourself. So don't shift your energy to make him feel replaced. Shift it because you're finally ready to replace the version of yourself who waited with the version who chose herself. That's when everything changes. You don't need to send long, emotional texts. You don't need to write paragraphs explaining how hurt you are, how much he messed up, or how badly you wish things had been different. In fact, you don't even need to say anything at all. Silence speaks louder than anything you could possibly write. See, when someone pulls away from us or starts taking us for granted, our natural instinct, especially when we care, is to try to convince them to come back. We want to remind them what they're losing. We want to tell them how we feel, how much they hurt us, how much effort we put in, and how they're just throwing it all away. But the truth is, the more we talk, the less they listen. When you're constantly available, constantly reacting, constantly explaining, it gives the other person comfort. Even if things aren't perfect between you, they still know you're there. They feel your emotional presence. They know you still care. And ironically, that comfort becomes the very thing that stops them from realizing what they're about to lose. But the second that energy disappears, the second you go quiet, not in a petty, cold shoulder way, but in a genuinely calm, detached, self-respecting way, it hits differently. That silence doesn't say, I'm angry. It says, I'm not going to beg for something I deserve. And that energy, it's haunting. People remember silence because it leaves space for reflection, space for realization. It forces them to fill in the blanks with their own thoughts. And you know what? Those thoughts are usually far more powerful than anything you could have said. Because now, instead of reading a message from you trying to win them back, they're sitting in the quiet, wondering why you're not chasing them, wondering if you've moved on, wondering if someone else is filling the space they left behind. And here's the part they really can't stand. When you stop reacting, they lose control. As long as you're reacting, whether it's through anger, sadness, pleading, or even passive-aggressive messages, they still feel connected to you. They still feel like they matter. But when that reaction stops, when you go silent, they start to panic. Suddenly, they realize they don't know what's going on with you. Are you hurt? Are you healing? Are you with someone new? Have you completely cut them out of your life? That mystery becomes maddening. Silence isn't about playing games. It's not about manipulation. It's about alignment. Aligning with your self-worth. When someone disrespects your value or makes you feel like a backup plan, the most powerful response is to step back, not shout louder. Not everything deserves your words. Sometimes the best message is no message at all. And don't get it twisted. Going silent isn't easy, especially when your heart is still attached, especially when you want closure, or feel like if you just explain one more time, maybe they'll finally get it. But if they cared enough, they would have already understood without needing the essay. They would have shown up before you had to convince them. So instead of filling that silence with desperate noise, fill it with self-respect, with growth, with peace. That quiet space you're creating, that's where your power lives. That's where you get your clarity. That's where the healing happens. Because the more you chase, the more they run. The more you explain, the less they listen. But the moment you disappear from their radar, not out of spite, but out of strength, that's when they start looking. That's when they replay old messages. That's when they stalk your profile. That's when they notice your absence in the room. Your silence will echo louder than your words ever could. Let it do the talking. Let me tell you something that changes the game when you decide to level up. Do it for you, not for revenge, not for him, not to prove a point, but because you finally see yourself clearly. When you've been hurt or left behind, it's tempting to make the other person your focus. You want them to see what they lost. You want to show them you're better without them. And look, I get that impulse. It's human. But if you're still doing everything with them in mind, they're still in control. They're still renting space in your head, influencing every move you make. That's not real growth. That's performance. And no one thrives in performance mode. Real leveling up, it starts when you stop trying to be seen and start actually seeing yourself, seeing your worth, your potential, your strength. Because when you start becoming the person you were always capable of being, your glow changes. It's no longer look at me energy. It's I see myself energy. And that energy is irresistible. There's something magnetic about a person who's not trying to impress anyone, just deeply invested in becoming the best version of themselves. You want him to feel replaced? Be the person who doesn't even need to replace him. Be the person who wakes up one day and realizes that she doesn't miss who he was. She misses who she thought he was. And once that illusion breaks, once you stop romanticizing someone who couldn't meet you where you deserved, your growth becomes unstoppable. This is where you shift the story. You stop being the woman who's waiting for the text, waiting for the apology, waiting for him to come back and get it. And you become the woman who no longer needs closure because she created it for herself. That's what leveling up looks like. It's not about getting prettier to make him regret leaving it. It's about becoming healthier, more grounded, more joyful, because you decided you're worthy of that version of life. And yes, that might include a physical glow up. You might hit the gym, change your style, revamp your energy, but the real glow up happens when you stop letting your self-worth fluctuate based on someone else's recognition. That's the game changer, because suddenly you're no longer auditioning for love. You're not sitting around hoping someone realizes your value. You know your value and you move like it. When he sees that, it's confronting. He's not just seeing a woman who's moved on. He's seeing a woman who outgrew him. And that hits different because the moment he realizes you've outgrown the version of you that once tolerated his inconsistency, his mixed signals, his silence, that's when he feels the loss. That's when he starts wondering if anyone else will ever see him the way you did. That's when regret creeps in, not because you tried to make him jealous, but because your transformation forced him to face his own lack of growth. You didn't replace him with someone else. You replaced who you were when you were with him. And that's far more powerful. People often think the most painful thing for an ex is seeing you with someone new. It's not. The most painful thing is realizing you became someone extraordinary without them, that you evolved, that you stepped into your worth, that you healed the parts of you that once clung to him, that the version of you he could manipulate, breadcrumb, or ignore doesn't exist anymore. He sees your smile online and can't tell if it's because of someone new or just because you finally feel free. That ambiguity haunts him because now he's no longer the center of your world. He's a chapter in a story that's only just beginning. And he knows deep down that he's no longer part of the plot. But here's the key. None of this works if it's not real. If your glow up is just a mask, a curated highlight reel to make him feel something, he'll sense that. People can feel when it's forced, but when it's genuine, when your life starts expanding and you start laughing from a place of peace, not performance, that's what shakes him. That's what makes him replay every memory, every moment he took you for granted, every time he thought you'd never walk away. So no, don't level up to get him back. That's too small a goal for you. Level up because you finally see what you're capable of. Because you're tired of waiting for someone to choose you when you've already decided to choose yourself. You don't need him to regret losing you to win. You win the moment you stop needing him to. And maybe one day he will try to come back. Maybe he'll say he misses the way you made him feel. Maybe he'll suddenly realize he wasn't ready then, or he didn't know what he had. But by then, you'll have become a woman who doesn't fall for nostalgia, a woman who looks at the past and says, "Thank you for the lesson, but I've graduated." That's the real Fleck. That's how you make him feel replaced, by becoming so deeply fulfilled in your own life that he doesn't even recognize the version of you he once knew. And more importantly, you don't recognize the version of you who settled for less than this. He's not your closure. Your evolution is. You know what's funny? Sometimes the greatest wake-up call for a guy is when he sees that someone else notices what he failed to appreciate. And no, I don't mean going out of your way to make him jealous or playing childish games to prove a point. That's not power. That's desperation dressed up in drama. What I am talking about is this subtle, natural shift that happens when you start attracting attention from other people because you've refocused your energy. Here's the truth. People don't appreciate what they think they'll never lose. Comfort makes people lazy. Familiarity makes them assume you'll always be there. So he stops trying. He stops putting in effort. He forgets that you are a prize. And when that happens, the dynamic starts to tilt in the wrong direction. You're left waiting, hoping, trying to fix things he doesn't even see as broken. But the moment he realizes you're not waiting anymore, that's when things change. You don't even need to be dating someone new. It can be as simple as him noticing that spark in your eye again, that you're laughing in someone else's company, that you're dressing up not to impress him, but because you feel good, that your phone's buzzing more often, that you're suddenly unavailable for the conversations he used to delay for days. That's when the questions start creeping into his head. Who's making her smile like that? Or why didn't she answer so quickly this time? Or wait, is she actually moving on? Let's be clear, this is not about validation from someone else. This isn't about proving your worth through a rebound or flaunting someone new just to trigger him. No, this is about shifting your focus back to yourself, rebuilding your world, letting others gravitate toward you naturally because your energy isn't tied to him anymore. It's magnetic. And not because you're trying to get his attention, but because you finally stopped trying at all. See, when he was the center of your world, you made him feel secure, safe, maybe even smug. And in that comfort, he stopped seeing you clearly. But now he's watching from the sidelines as someone else says the right things, as someone else sees the value he took for granted, as someone else looks at you the way he used to, or maybe never did. And that's when his ego takes the hit. That's when the panic kicks in, because nothing wakes a man up faster than realizing he's being replaced. And it's not even about the other person, it's about you, because now he sees you through a different lens, the lens of loss. He's no longer in control. He's no longer the only one with access to your time, your laughter, your presence. And you didn't have to announce it. You didn't need to rub it in. You just became unavailable in the quietest, most graceful way possible. And you know what's wild? Sometimes it's not even about another person physically being there. Sometimes it's the energy shift that makes him spiral. You're no longer emotionally checking your phone for his name. You're no longer rearranging your plans to suit his convenience. You're no longer stuck in limbo wondering what you did wrong. Because now you're busy living, busy laughing, busy loving yourself more than you ever loved, waiting for him. And if he reaches out, he'll do it with urgency this time. He won't come back slow and calculated. No, he'll come back worried, nervous, trying to reclaim the space he once occupied with ease. He'll be kinder, more attentive, suddenly full of compliments he used to forget. Because now he's reminded that you're not guaranteed, that his place in your life was never owed, it was earned. And somewhere along the line, he stopped earning it. Now, here's where your power comes in. When he returns, and trust me, if he truly cared, he will, you'll be in a different place. You won't be waiting for his apology like oxygen. You won't be clinging to crumbs of effort. You'll be standing on solid ground, knowing that your worth was never dependent on his recognition. You'll have options, not just in love, but in life. And you'll realize the very thing that broke you was also what built you. So don't focus on making him feel replaced. Focus on becoming irreplaceable to yourself. Build a life so full, so rich, so vibrant that if he dares to come back, he won't recognize the woman standing in front of him, because she's no longer the girl who waited. She's the woman who moved and made no apologies for it. And that's when the real shift happens. He'll either rise to meet you or stay behind, watching you glow without him. Reclaiming your power isn't about revenge. It's not about proving anything to him. It's about remembering who you are when no one is watching, who you are when you're not trying to win someone over or earn love through effort. It's about stepping back into the version of yourself that knows her worth, doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's attention. That version of you, she's still there. Maybe she got quiet. Maybe she got tired. Maybe she got caught up in over-giving, over-explaining, over-accommodating, but she never left. You see, when someone pulls away or takes you for granted, the instinctive reaction is often to do more, to fix it, to be louder, to be clearer, to fight for it. But what happens when, in all that chasing, you start abandoning yourself? You start ignoring your own boundaries, lowering your standards, and hoping that maybe if you're just a little more, they'll finally choose you. The truth is, anyone who only chooses you after you've sacrificed your peace wasn't truly choosing you. They were choosing the version of you that made life easier for them. So what happens when you stop chasing? What happens when you reclaim your energy? At first, it feels uncomfortable, like you're doing something wrong, because silence and detachment can feel like weakness. But actually, it's the greatest form of strength. It takes strength to hold back when everything in you wants to reach out. It takes strength to resist the urge to explain yourself just one more time. It takes strength to walk away from a connection that made you feel seen at one point, but now makes you feel invisible. And this is where the shift begins. When you start showing up differently, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, people notice, especially the ones who got used to you being there. Your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was, because they never imagined you'd stop trying. They didn't think you'd actually move on. And when they see that you're no longer orbiting around them, no longer dropping breadcrumbs of affection, no longer emotionally available at their convenience, they start to panic. Now, let's be honest. Making someone feel replaced doesn't mean you're playing games. It doesn't mean you're deliberately flaunting someone else in their face or being petty. It means you're no longer pausing your life in the hope they'll come back. It means you're open again to new experiences, new people, new energy. It means you're saying, I am no longer waiting for someone who isn't choosing me. And yes, that can be a massive wake-up call to the person who lost you. Because the version of you they knew, the one who would stay no matter what, who would always be there, who would always reach out, she's gone. Not bitter, not angry, just done, just evolved. And that's terrifying to someone who thought they had time. But here's the key difference. This isn't about using detachment as a tool to manipulate them into coming back. If they come back, it has to be because they genuinely realized what they lost, not because they're reacting to a bruised ego. The point isn't to get them back. The point is to get you back, to step back into your power, into your joy, into your magnetism. Because when you do, you become radiant, not because you're trying to be, but because you've remembered who you are. And here's the most beautiful part. When you stop trying to convince someone to stay, you create space for someone who sees your value immediately, who doesn't need the absence to feel the weight of your presence, who doesn't need to lose you to realize your worth. You start to realize that the right person won't need to feel replaced to appreciate you. They'll just know. So don't chase validation. Don't try to prove your value. Let your silence speak. Let your growth do the talking. Let your life reflect what you're no longer willing to settle for. And if he comes back, fine. But let him come back to a woman who no longer needs him to choose her in order to feel chosen. Let him meet the version of you who is no longer proving anything because she already knows. When you reclaim your power, you don't lose people, you lose the ones who were never meant to stay, and make space for someone who will never risk losing you. And that's when everything changes.